Let me start with this, the most obvious. Do you believe that we have the proper suspect in custody? Do you believe that Tyler Robinson is, in fact, the man who killed Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
Do you believe he acted with the help of anyone else?
This investigation is being led by the Utah state authorities because it is a murder investigation. So the FBI is a supporting role in the investigative process. And so what we're doing is the same thing we did in the pipe bomb investigation. The investigation is ongoing for us. If there's any new leads or tips, we are exhausting them with search warrants and legal process. But at the same time, we are working with the prosecutors in Utah to make sure we don't screw up their investigation. Because again, the worst outcome would be if the guy that killed Charlie Kirk walks out of a United States courtroom in the state of Utah. And so it's a delicate balance again, but there is no way this FBI is going to stop that investigation until it reaches its all-conclusive endpoint.
Do you believe any foreign government had a role in his assassination?
At this time, the FBI doesn't have credible information to connect any foreign governments to it. But as I said, we are continuing to take investigative leads. We're not done. Just because we arrest someone, just like in the pipe bomber case, we don't just say, okay, we're done, on to the next. The investigative team continues to work with the Utah authorities, and they're deriving their own leads and coming back to us and say, hey, can you look at this piece of information? Can we get a search warrant on this account? What about this individual who is located in X, Y, or Z? We're tracking all that down.
Do you have any credible reason to believe that anyone connected with the Turning Point organization had anything to do with Charlie's death?
Zero.
On the subject, there's been an allegation made by prominent podcaster Candace Owens that she's received a death threat, a credible death threat from the French, that a threat has been made on her life, and that the French, she's been told, also may have had a role in Charlie's assassination. Have you looked into either of those? Do you believe she's received a credible death threat from the French, or that the French had something potentially to do with Charlie's death?
Any American that receives a death threat from overseas or anywhere in America is going to be fully investigated. So we're not going to turn our eye away from that investigation or any others. If there's anything to it, this FBI will respond to it.
Okay, but so far, no.
So we are just looking at everything that comes in. We're not going to reject any piece of information. If someone feels that their life is being threatened, we are, of course, looking at it.
I can verify that myself, because we've received some very dark things here at our show, and you guys have always been very responsive in looking hard at the people who send them. Can I ask you, Kash, the text messages between Tyler Robinson and his roommate Lance Twiggs, the reason a lot of people think Tyler didn't do it is because they sound kind of fake. You know, the wording just sounds a little strange. Like, I thought they caught the person, or no, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. They go on from there. Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred, and so on. Do you have any reason to believe that text exchange was not real between them for whatever reason, potentially even having been orchestrated between the two of them?
Look, I understand the emotion behind this case. Charlie was my friend. He was your friend. He was assassinated in the most brutal way in a public forum where he was trying to have engagement with the youth of the United States of America. And while I was representing the White House at Ground Zero in New York City on 9/11, we made the decision to pivot immediately and fly out to Utah to make sure we executed this manhunt. We went out there, the FBI seized the video evidence and put it out to the public immediately. And then this individual was caught in 33 hours. And so I understand that there's so much charged emotion on the other evidence that was collected, the notes that you were talking about, the text message, excuse me. And we present that information to the prosecutors to make the determination based on the evidence we have as to whether or not they were real. I can't stylize or comment on it because it's an ongoing investigation, but I don't believe the prosecutors in the state of Utah would be using any piece of information or evidence that was not credible.
Last but not least on Charlie, there were texts by certain trans individuals online before the assassination talking about something big is going to be happening, and then after he was killed saying, and there it is, leading many of us to wonder whether there was some sort of trans-Tifa connection to the murder, or at least maybe some tip off to the community. Is that under investigation?
That is most definitely under investigation. And we've disclosed a lot of that to the prosecution, or all of it that we have. And they've made some of it public, to include that he was in a relationship with an individual who was part of that community, and that he was engaged in communications with other individuals in that community. But as to how they relate to the prosecution, that's up to the Utah prosecutors to say.
Hi, everybody. It's Friday, and you are back with us live. Yes, you're in the right place again, Poppin' Politics. And tonight we are going to keep this ball going from Wednesday until now. There have been many, huge bombshell moments, if you will, no pun intended, about the FBI, the Charlie Kirk investigation. Of course, that interview that Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, he gave today with Megyn Kelly. But first, before we get started, you know what you need to do. Hit that like, share, and subscribe buttons and make it go big. Please let us get up in the algorithm. Again, you know how it works. You know what to do. We want to send a big shout out to all our chatters, our moderators off the bat. And we're, again, KJ is still out. But as promised, we have Nicole here with us tonight. And we also have Yana is back with us tonight. Yana.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, what?
I said many people have been asking about you.
Oh, well, I missed you guys, and I missed the podcast, and of course our viewers. So I'm really happy to be here.
All righty. So thanks. I know it's a little chilly here on the East Coast, but we are going to dig right in. So as you heard, Kash Patel was speaking with Megyn Kelly earlier today, and in that particular clip, was specifically focused on the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation from Utah's perspective, from the FBI's perspective. So right off the bat, Nicole, what stood out to you in that interview?
It was like a deposition. It was not fluid at all. I expected it to be a little bit more conversational between the two of them, because they are friends. They do know one another. But I think they did that for a reason. I think that there will be some litigation that comes out of this thing with TPUSA and Candace Owens' production company and all of her merry band of folk. So I think what they were doing, we're getting something straight. And I hope that the TPUSA interview that they're doing with all of Charlie's friends is very much the same way. Information forward, low on emotion.
Okay, great. All right, Yana, what about you? What did you think from that the exchange there?
I thought it was a good exchange. I like the fact that Kash Patel said that they're still investigating and they're looking into a lot of the unanswered questions. So, for example, when they mentioned the trans Tifa, I really want to know more about that. I really want to find out if there's an actual conspiracy possibly, or just people knowing that this was going to happen and that there are more people involved. We really got to know about that, and we need to investigate these evil people who actually want to murder conservatives.
Yeah, I thought it was a good interview, and I guess Megyn, of course, she's a journalist and an attorney by trade, or by skill, if you will, by her practice. So I think it was she was trying to be structured, orderly, not so much friendly, even though, of course, we all know that they're friends. But I think that interview also maybe put to rest, or not put to rest, but at least answered some things for, I guess I would say, both sides. One thing that stood out was that when she asked him, and she followed up with the threats that Candace Owens says she has gotten on her life, he didn't say that there were no threats. He said that the FBI, the authorities, will follow up on all credible threats. He did not deny or just poo-poo that there were any at all. And she followed up with him, but I don't think he wanted to say too much one way or the other. But needless to say, if there are credible threats from Director Patel, he's saying that they will follow up on them. On the other side, he put to rest in a way that right now, as far as the evidence shows, Tyler Robinson is the official suspect, I guess. And right now, as far as we know, he's the only suspect. Doesn't mean that they're not looking for others. Doesn't mean that they're not going to follow up on the leads, like you were saying, Yana, the other trans Tifa parts that may be there. So again, as always, there's more to come. I don't know if this is, well, no, I do know. It's not going to stop Candace or anyone else from allegations, innuendo, insinuations. It's not going to stop there. But maybe they will have some information that they needed to at least move past some parts where they are alleging things that may or may not even be at all. What do you think about that?
Well, I think two things. What I heard Kash Patel say is that any American, not just Candace Owens, any American that has a credible threat against their life, whether here or abroad, is of interest to the FBI. This is what I heard him say. I think they chose their words very carefully. Again, there's going to be some, you want to talk about litigation, there's going to be some litigating when this thing is all said and done. She's slandered too many of them too repeatedly while they're grieving for them not to come for her. I think this is all just them getting their ducks in a row. The important thing, though, I think that I heard the most important thing Kash Patel say is that this is not the end of it, right? They're looking at all possibilities, and what comes up, they'll investigate, but they're not trying to get in the way of the local authorities, the state authorities, of doing their jobs of prosecuting Charlie Kirk's known murderer.
Right, exactly. So we have more to come. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more coming in the days ahead. Before we move on, I do want to say thank you to our new Freedom Seeker member. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining. Yay. Thank you for that. And all of you out there in Super Chat land, again, hit that like, share, and subscribe buttons. And make sure if you want to get your comments read, please send us a Super Chat and we will gladly read them. So again, there's more to come. That interview was not just about Charlie Kirk and the assassination and the investigation. Director Kash Patel also talked about the latest information news for America, I think, of catching the suspect, Brian Cole Jr. Now, of late, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, the director and deputy director, had taken some negative publicity or some negative reviews in the news. So this news is much welcome, not just for the FBI, but for Americans. So let's take a look at clip number 1, and then we'll talk about this segment as well.
Bombs were placed between 7:30 and 8:30 that night. Again, this was January 5th, the night before the Capitol attack. The bombs did not detonate, but were viable and discovered the next day. Over the past 4 years, agents visited 1,200 homes, businesses, conducted more than 1,000 interviews, reviewed about 39,000 video files, Harris. They also went through more than 600 or so tips relating to this investigation. We reported just a little while ago, the man that is in custody, his name is Brian Cole Jr., in his early 30s, from Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where what we're being told, court-authorized activity is taking place right now, I should say. He was picked up earlier this morning, taken into custody, in federal custody right now. We're expecting to hear from Attorney General Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro at some point later today. And I will note that the FBI did have a reward of $500,000, a $500,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person behind this. So it's unclear if that may have played a role here. A lot of questions, though, still that we have as we await to hear from some of these leaders at the DOJ and FBI today.
All right, and I see where you're going there, because, yes, great investigating. You talked about those 39,000 videos and the 1,200 homes and businesses that investigators went to. But did this come from someone who tipped them off, who had some information? We don't know yet, but $500,000 on the line.
That's exactly right. We don't know exactly what was the final linchpin where investigators say, okay, now we're going to go to this person. I've been covering this case since January of 2021. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary, half a decade. It's hard to believe. Oof. And investigators have been looking for this person over and over again. But in the surveillance footage, it's difficult because the person's face completely covered. You can't see any eyes. It's dark. The camera angles are far away. The person had gloves on, a hoodie, legs were covered. So it's been very, very difficult. So what we want to know is it a tip? Did somebody rat this person out? Right. Or did perhaps law enforcement go through original case file information and just take a second, third, fourth, or even fifth scrub and just go back to the basics and say, hey, here's something that's new that maybe we didn't look at early enough? So we don't want to speculate. We just have to wait until we hear it, until the criminal complaint is unsealed in court, and until authorities say so. But clearly, we're going to find out definitely a lot more information here in the next several hours. Absolutely no speculation.
Wow. Big news. I think it's welcome news. It's not finished yet, as Director Patel would say. But today, if you haven't been listening in the last 24 hours, this person, suspect Brian Cole Jr., has been apprehended. He is the primary suspect of being the pipe bomber that laid pipe bombs outside the RNC and DNC headquarters in D.C. on January 5th. 2021 in preparation to explode them on January the 6th. So he has finally been caught. And as you can see, again, there was a $500,000 reward out. We're not sure if there was a tip that came through that finally led the FBI and other authorities to catch this guy. But he's from Woodbridge, Virginia, literally about, 30, 45 minutes away from where we all are in the DMV area. He is 30 something, so he would have been about 25, maybe 26 at that time period. But for 5 years, he has been evading the authorities, and now he is in custody. Yana, what can we say about this? I mean, what does it make you feel? Does it bring back memories, if you will, of January the 6th? What do you think about this? Time does fly.
It does fly, but it does seem like it was not, to me, it doesn't seem like it was a long time ago, because I mean, that time was so volatile and we were all, so emotional about what was going on. And what I think when I see this is the fact that whoever had any kind of information, or at least, had these videos, the Democrat administration, they kind of sat on this information for so long, and they were going after people who were just walking around the Capitol building. Like, I remember that time when people were literally, arrested for being there in the crowd. And it is just so incredible to me that this person who literally put bombs in places around Washington, D.C., was not being looked for so long, for 5 years. So, and I mean, I do want to know more, of course. I hope that they do investigate and find out who else was involved, because I always feel like it can't be just this one person. And I did read into him a little bit. They say that he was a little strange, like possibly autistic. But I also want to know, maybe somebody was sending him information or encouraging him to do something like this. And it's interesting that when we talk about Charlie Kirk, I didn't think that foreign governments or foreign entities were involved in Charlie Kirk. I don't think so. But in this situation, I wonder, was it some foreign entity that was sending messages to this strange guy to go put bombs to create chaos in Washington, D.C.? So I hope that they investigate more into it.
Yeah. I hope they do too, and I think they will. But Nicole, again, Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino, they've been taking some negative hits in the media lately, for some of their behaviors or the lack thereof. And maybe some people, MAGA doesn't feel that they are releasing some information that President Trump ran on, and certainly Dan Bongino with his podcast before becoming director. Does this arrest, this apprehension, do you think this will spur some trust or maybe retrust for MAGA and certainly for America with this ongoing investigation?
Probably not. I think most of Americans are dug into their own personal belief systems. The wonderful thing about being an American is that we are so free and so wealthy and so blessed that we have the privilege of being complete and absolute nut jobs. We can be just as nutty as we choose to be, and it is okay. Other nations don't really have that much freedom, but here we've got that kind of freedom. Listen, this young man lives in the metro area, as we call it, although it's outside of Washington, D.C., that part of Virginia, Northern Virginia, parts of where I live, we all call that the metro area. So when you're inside the bubble, your thought processes are a little different sometimes, especially if you are what I like to call saturated in politics. Now, don't get me wrong. I do a lot of the Sunday morning talkies. I'll be on the Sunday morning talkies on Sunday, talking about different things. So it does become overwhelming. So if you're someone who's already predisposed to foolishness, predisposed to a type of lunatic behavior, living in this area doesn't help. When you talk about a 24-hour news cycle, you've not seen anything until you live here. You know, a senator trips and falls, it's on TV for at least 3 days. They're talking about the shoemaker, the curb maker, the guy who was standing down the street. It is just so much pressure that weak people crack. And I don't mean that in a bad kind of way, but we don't know what was going on in this young man's mind. We're not even sure it's the young man. You know, there's not been very much information released, but they did say that this particular young man started buying components for this bomb in 2019. So this was not like he woke up one morning feeling special. This was a thought out process. And what usually happens with folks like this, there's some sort of manifesto, you know, there's some sort of, you know, written out detailed plan, a la the Unabomber, the kind of explaining and re-energizing their thought processes. So I'm interested to see if I'm going to call this the Nike bomber, if those Nikes are distinctive enough to convict this man of dropping pipe bombs. And don't get me wrong, it may sound like I'm making light of it, but as somebody who hangs out at the Capitol Hill Club, yeah, we don't need that blowing up, because everybody's in there, Democrats, Republicans, you know, independents. It's just a good place to hang out. So this is a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And I'm glad they finally caught him, even if it took 5 years.
Right. Well, yeah. So again, quote unquote, allegedly, right? But before we go on, I want to pick up on something you said, but I do want to thank our super chat here, a super chatter, Kimberly. Thank you for your $10 super chat, and again for being a member of our Freedom Seekers Club.
Absolutely. Thank you.
She got paid today. Good job. It's Friday. Just got paid Friday night. So she's spreading the love to her favorite live stream channel, Team USA. Thank you, Kimberly, and enjoy your pay. Nicole, you said something. Producers, can we put those images back up of the suspected bomber? So you said, Nicole, that you know, of course, the story is, or at least some of the claims are so far, that he did start picking out supplies, I guess, for bombs. He's been making bombs, or he has some kind of affinity for making bombs, but he was preparing. There's 39,000 records or pieces of data so far that we know of, that the authorities have gone through. But if you notice, you said, you know, we didn't know who he was. Well, he's all wrapped up, you know, masked up, head to toe, gloves, things like that. Couldn't really figure out what he looked like. But let's see clip 2, what Jake Tapper says. When the pictures came out of this suspect, let's see what I'm going to call him Fake Flapper. Let's see what Fake Flapper says, and let's see if you can pick up who this guy is.
Ryan Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
Can we play that one more time, please?
Ryan Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
Okay, so I just wanted you all to hear what I heard. You can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this up. A 30-year-old white man. These people, what Jake Tapper, fake flapper, was doing there, he was trying to indict WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males in particular. That's what he was trying to do. They are so upset that this suspect is a black guy, brown and black, or whatever the terminology is. He is so upset that he can't even say a black guy cannot be, because you know why? If this guy is a black guy, which he appears to be, and if it comes out that he has some ties to Antifa and BLM and the Summer of Love when everything was burning down and the journalists standing there saying it was a peaceful protest, they don't have anything to stand on. They want to pin this on any heterosexual white male that they can find because of white supremacy, and they want to just tear at them, even if they have to lie, even if it's right on the screen. I mean, Your Honor, you can't make this up. I mean, what am I missing?
I can't. I mean, I don't. I really have no words. It's hilarious, and the fact that how many people at this point after this broadcast probably still think he's a white guy. Like they literally still probably, in their circles, they're like, yeah, there's this white guy in DC, who was trying to blow it up. I'm sure they still believe it because that's what they believe. They've been saying that what do they say, that the most dangerous man in America is a white man because they commit mass shootings and things like that. So it's this, they perpetuate this idea that terrorists are only white men, and it's hilarious. It breaks the narrative that he's not a white man. I mean, they were so happy to report on January 6th, that these were Trump supporters that created havoc, and it turns out that actually there were these agents and whoever agents of chaos were in the crowd actually pushing people to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And so they kept running with this narrative that Trump supporters or white people are dangerous, and now the narrative is completely broken. So this Jake Tapper guy I think he had something was not computing in his head.
Nicole, wait a minute, Nicole, before you talk, can we play it again, producer, please?
Ryan Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
Nicole, what do you say to that?
Jan is right. His blackness, his brown skin, whether he identifies as white or not, it does not fit CNN and Jake Tapper's narrative. They want this to be a white man, preferably Republican, preferably living in his parents' basement with no job prospects, with nothing going on, but he's just, hanging around building pipe bombs in the basement. This is what they wanted to happen. This young man, for all intents and purposes, is their worst damn nightmare. This is horrible. The only thing that could make this worse for them is if he was originally a woman and is a part of that trans mafia. That would make it worse for them. But as it stands now, it's still pretty bad. It is still absolute. Can you believe it? A black bomber? The subtle racism in that whole thing, like black men can't bomb. I'm sure they can bomb just like white guys. Give it up, Jake. Give it up. Again, Jake Tapper is less than credible when it comes to reporting news. The same man who said that Joe Biden was fit as a fiddle, his mind was sharp as a tack, and then a year later wrote a book about how demented Joe Biden was. You can't even make this stuff up. These people are lunatics. That channel is trash. If you want comedy, CNN is the station for you.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add that, that's kind of offensive, because if it was the other way around, and it was a white person who committed a crime, and then a news anchor reported that it was a black person committed a crime, that would be, how many people would be coming out and saying that, that news anchor needs to be fired, that this can create backlash, this can create, hate crimes. So this is actually, I mean, this is ridiculous that this even happened and nobody's speaking out saying that this is dangerous. I mean, someone can say, I feel offended. Why are you talking? Why are you saying that when if you're clearly lying, and now it's on the racial basis? So I feel offended.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Look, keep your offense because you're going to need it. And Nicole, you're right. You can't make this up because these media types, these lefties, these progressives, they are so hell bent on building a narrative instead of just reporting the news. Okay. Yes, there's a place for opinion, but you should be an opinion columnist and not a news anchor, if you will. They can't get it straight. And if they had if he was a trans, what is it? Help me out, Nicole. You said if he was a white guy pretending to be a trans, they would be as confused as I am thinking about it, right? They would know which one to go to first, which one has more hierarchy, which characteristic. So let's see clip 3, and maybe Miss Abby Phillip can help us figure this out. Which one is worse, or which one do we pick? Let's see clip number 3. All right, it's coming. I guess pick number 3 is coming. So, but again, we're going to keep talking. Do we have any more super chats?
I do wonder if he had been actually caught around the time of January 6th and prosecuted, would he have been included in Trump's pardons?
I mean, okay, this is absolutely beyond the pale to me, to be honest, to claim that we don't know any sort of inkling of a motive of this individual when just a few months prior there was a lawsuit ruled in the Trump administration's favor against this particular individual for his company seeking to let illegal immigrants out of prison on bail bonds. He purchased the supplies in 2019.
Just to clarify,
very clearly.
What we're saying is that on that podium there,
yeah, you're suggesting that he's tied to January 6th insurrectionists theoretically, because had he been found at that time.
We are saying that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi did not provide a motive, and so you can speculate all you want, but the authorities who are charging this guy haven't laid out a motive. That's all I've said. The other thing is that, no, I'm not suggesting that he was tied to stop the steal, but I'm not sure why you think that would be
had he been discovered right after January 6th, would he have been included in the pardonings from individuals who participated?
So it's called a hypothetical. Had he been prosecuted alongside all of those other people who were involved in violent acts on January 6th, would Donald Trump have pardoned him?
No, because individuals who walked into the Capitol building on January 6th were not planting pipe bombs at both the DNC
what
and
about
the
what about the ones that use the American flag?
But again, it's rich to me that now the media is saying we have no idea what the motive is for this person.
Hold on.
This network,
what about
MSNBC,
Isabel, what about the people
within 48 hours of January 6th,
what about the people who used an American flag
to say this was intended to foment additional chaos, to detract from law enforcement?
The media as if you're not at this table.
I get that you don't want to. I get that you don't want to grapple with the facts of what happened. No, well, let me ask you a question. What about the people who assaulted and beat police officers on January 6th?
I have regularly said,
so do you
anyone who commits a violent crime absolutely should be prosecuted
that they are just trespassing, that they were wrongfully prosecuted,
well,
that they should have been set free?
Didn't beat police officers on January 6th.
Nicole, if you ask Nicole, they cannot, first of all, they're going to have January 6th is going to be the death of them, almost as TDS will be, number one. Number two, they cannot differentiate between nonviolent people who were caught up in this big sweep and prosecuted to like really harsh charges for January 6th, when all they did was enter the Capitol. And if you want to call it trespassing, fine. But the lady was right. I can't think of her name. The lady who was speaking. She's saying you really can't make this up. You're trying to put everybody under one lump sum, and then you're going to go back and say, oh, Trump would have pardoned him too. Nicole, help me out. I mean.
So, yeah, J6 has already cost them one election, and it'll continue to cost them elections if they continue to push this narrative. Listen, when you take a look at how Americans protest, whether that protest is, as Democrats, how do they call it? A nonviolent protest or mostly peaceful protests where things are on fire and places are looted. And you compare that to the people who were swept up on January 6th. Some of my friends were swept up January 6th. They were just kind of hanging around downtown. And anybody who was there who looked like they may, quote unquote, be participating, were swept up. And being swept up by police on federal property is very much different than being swept up on the streets of downtown LA or all that kind of thing. So the penalties are much stiffer. Those people paid their debt, whether they were pardoned, they served time, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to defend themselves from their own government. Done, right? We're pushing forward. But here's Abby saying, well, if they had really worked hard and caught this guy, he would have gotten pardoned by now. You know, the next thing they're going to say is, well, then he should get off like all the rest of the J6ers. We shouldn't be, holding him to that same high standard. Of course we should. He should too be out of $250,000 trying to defend himself. He should too sit in a prison cell. And maybe, just maybe, someone will take a serious look at who else participated in his lunacy, not only to blow up the RNC and the DNC, but everything in between it. Everything in between it. And that is the startling part. This is not about Republican or Democrat violence. This is violence against the American people. And he needs to be held to account for it, regardless of how Abby Phillips feels. And oh, by the way, she's a horrible moderator on this show. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Absolutely. He was I call him an equal opportunity bomber because he was going for the Democrats and the Republicans. Probably my suspicion is that because he sued President Trump's administration and he did not win that suit, right? Because he had some kind of bail bonds company. It was trying to get immigrants, ICE detainees out, and he didn't win his lawsuit. So it was right after that he started, I guess, getting pieces together for bombs. But Yana, do we still need to keep revisiting this J6? Because we're not going to change the left's mind about this. What is it that they don't get? Or do they still want these people locked up forever just for quote unquote trespassing into the Capitol? People who were nonviolent. They didn't commit any violence.
I think they do because they hate conservatives. They hate Trump to such extent, and they hate all of us who support Trump and who have gone to these protests to protest a possible rigged election. And we have a right to do that. And I think they either do not want to admit, the Democrats do not want to admit that the election possibly been rigged, or they know it was rigged and they do not want people talking about it, and they hate anyone who was speaking up about it and is still speaking up about it. So they want to shut us down. They want to destroy us. They would be happy if those protesters of January 6th would have been in jail forever. That's what they would want. So they're angry, they're bitter that they were pardoned. And now she keeps saying, Abby keeps saying, she keeps repeating her question, and she's saying it is a hypothetical. Well, why are you asking a hypothetical? Like, you understand it's a hypothetical, so why are you asking about it? It's a hypothetical question, and it is a totally different case. It's not the same case of protesters, people being involved in protest, which is allowed. Maybe it went out of hand in some places, but overall, it was not the same as the Summer of Love. It was not as violent. I was there in Washington, D.C. on that day. It was not like that. Nothing burnt. So whatever did happen, I believe that there were some instigators who have caused the violence, if it did happen. But this guy literally wanted to blow up people. And so nobody should be okay with him going around trying to blow up people. And we should not be saying he should be pardoned with everyone else. Like, he should be investigated.
Yeah, they don't. The media, the left, they don't really know, they don't really believe that these January 6ers were that violent. You know why? Because they want, on the other side, they will release all violent criminals across the country. Okay, these prosecutors, these Soros paid, they'll release them, and they will tell us that, oh, we're racist and we're hypocrites and all that stuff. You know, we just want to put everybody in jail, lock everybody out. But then you have some non-violent people, mostly non-violent people. Yes, there were some who were, I guess, violent, and they caused mayhem, and they should have been dealt with. We said that when it happened, even though if they were MAGA, they should have been dealt with. That was not right. When they were asked to leave the Capitol, they should have left. Period, hands down. But these non-violent J6ers who, like you said, Nicole, they have gone into debt. They've lost a good portion of their livelihood, if you will, not to mention their lives and their freedoms. They're not violent. These people on the left, they're setting this up as a straw man because they want to use the J6ers as the violent on the right, the violent people on the right, while they are downplaying, minimizing, outright denying their own violence. That way they won't have to, again, look at themselves in the mirror and say, wait a minute, let me step back before I cast stones. Let's look at my side or whatever. They don't want to do that. And they know damn well that amongst most people on the right, most of the time, they are in some of the safest places ever. They are full of it. They are fake. Fake flapper, Abby, whatever her name is, she needs an S on the end of that damn name, Phillips. I'm sick of saying Phillips. It's missing an S. But nevertheless, this is all performance, right? This is all performance to keep them on in the media, like that they're so afraid, and they're not. This is all facade and performance for them. They just get on my nerves because these are the type of people that keep, you know how some people, you've had friends, girlfriends, mostly women, unfortunately, they like to stir up stuff in the background. Right? They like to stir up and they take a dig and they do this, but then they pretend like they don't even know what happened, you know, like they didn't have anything to do with it. People like that make me sick. They make me sick. But you all don't make us sick. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your comments. We have Crystala Jean. Thank you for your $2 super chat, Crystala. She says, would Abby ask the same questions if it was a white man? You know what? She probably would come up with some kind of way to make this white man feel racist or whatever. Yep. She couldn't talk down. I can't think of her name. Nicole, do you know the name? The lady who was speaking.
Oh, Isabel Brown.
Okay, right. She didn't want to hear her, but yeah. So yeah, what were you gonna say, Nicole? I'm sorry, because this is so sickening to me.
What's really interesting is if they could take one step beyond their racism, you know, and not that I'm trying to help them because I'm really not, but you know, from Jake Tapper to Abby Phillips, you know, they look at this man's brown face because eventually someone probably did tell Jake that he's black, you know. They look at this man's brown face and say, oh crap, what can we do? Well, let's bring out the J6ers, you know, because he doesn't look like a Republican. He doesn't look like a conservative. Wouldn't it be crazy if he were? And then we could have to call them out on their racism because, you know, black folk can be Republican too. I just feel like whenever there's an issue that they can't get over, whenever something happens to challenge their narrative and there's no way for them to pivot or spin, their fallback go-to place is January 6th. That's their fallback go-to place, you know, and it's going to be that way probably for another 5 years, you know, before most of America starts thinking of other things. And January 6th just becomes another day on the calendar. I just feel like they're not capable of letting it go because it's really the only ammunition that they have thus far. So we're going to hear J6, but the pushback to that is, you know, when we take a look at the Summer of Love and you're mostly, you know, peaceful protests, how many things were destroyed?
Yeah.
How many things
I gotta ask a favor for our producers. Can we see that clip one more time, please? I think it's the fake flapper. Can we see that clip again, please?
Ryan Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
And we're supposed to take him seriously. Go ahead, y'all.
So I'm wondering, like, when he's saying what he's saying, and there's that video playing, does he see the video?
Yes.
And he's still saying it? Like, how does that happen?
And you know he's got a huge monitor right in front of him.
Right.
Huge monitor
Does
right
it
in front of
say
him.
white male on his monitor?
And there's so
Somebody
much
wrote the
light in the
script for him
studio.
before.
You know what? That's probably what happened. They wrote the script before the picture came out.
I would love the producer who's in his ear going, no, he's black. It's a black man. It's a black man.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny though. But thank you all for joining us. Hi Josh, hi everybody's coming in the chat.
Hey,
We see you
everyone.
there. So look, since we are laughing, and this is going to be a short show because everybody's getting into their weekend. It's been a long week. We've had some good news again with the FBI. This the suspect being caught. Kash Patel giving information, updates, if you will, for the Charlie Kirk assassination. We gotta laugh. We had to laugh. We needed that laugh, right? But let's look at this, and this is on a light note. Literally, Christmas is the season of lights, the season of love, the season of life, the birth of Christ. There's Hanukkah, and I'm guessing there's some other festivities that people celebrate. I don't know. Call me xenophobic, call me ignorant. All I know are Christmas and Hanukkah. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay,
but it's gonna be a Festivus for the rest of us.
Right.
You know,
whatever, like Kash Patel said, "I'll see you in Valhalla," whatever that means. But let's look at the White House. Our First Lady Melania Trump has decorated the White House as pretty much all first ladies do, and we're going to do a little comparison. We're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to show these. So clip number 5 first.
You're muted.
Before you all say anything, we see how Melania has decorated and some of the festivities that are going on. Let's look at clip number 6 to see what we had before.
So let me explain. These are tap dancers at the White House, and you can hear the music in the background. It's their interpretation of the Nutcracker Suite. The Nutcracker Suite is obviously being played in sort of a jazzy form. It received a lot of likes, but also inspired some pointed comments on social media, including somebody saying that the video has a Hunger Games aesthetic. I think it's cool.
I think it's very cool.
It is very cool.
You know what? I have a T-shirt at home that says, "I used to be a people person until people ruined it for me." I mean, and this is a perfect example. I think this is beautifully.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was the Nutcracker. I like jazz. I like tap. I like to see a good theater or theatrical performance, but they look like crack nuts to me. I don't know. What about you, Yana?
It was nutty. It was nutty and circus-like. Like when I watch it, it just looks like circus performance to me. And that's what we had for 4 years. We had circus in our country. We had pretend. We had a pretend president. We had a pretend administration. So they really showed that. It was nothing said Christ is born. Nothing. I mean, they completely removed even any kind of tradition of real Christmas from that. And so that was very also, to me, I mean, that kind of speaks to communism, socialism, because that's what they do. They leave. In fact, in the Soviet Union, during that season, the winter season, because we didn't celebrate Christmas, but it was celebrations like New Year's, and the New Year's celebration was a masquerade. That's what was done in the Soviet Union to celebrate the winter season. So that's what made me think of when I saw that the Joe Biden's creation. Yeah, right now it just looks classy, it looks traditional, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah. Nicole?
So what's really interesting is I'm not a fan of tap dancers. That's probably one of the most interesting things that I could say about that thing. But I do know that the Bidens trying to be inclusive of everything and everybody. You know, they got a guy dancing with a flower on his hat, and a black man in a black uniform is one of the nutcrackers. So I think she probably did a little too much trying to include everybody. You know, it is Christmas. There was nothing that said peace, love, joy. I had the great misfortune of attending personally, and I attend a lot of White House Christmases. It was just very different. The national tree had like a carnival theme. It literally looked like something from like you would see at a festival or fair. And it was really interesting. And visually, it was interesting. But when you walk through the halls, you didn't think Christmas. You did not. You thought carnival, festival, fair, that kind of thing. But it didn't give you what people generally, or at least what I generally think of as Christmas, is family, friends, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. It didn't say any of that. It was definitely more circus theme. So tomorrow I will be seeing Trump 2.0's first Christmas since being reelected. And it's going to be interesting. So here's what I know. The people who decorate the trees are volunteers. So there is a meeting and the first lady says, I like this, I don't like that, I want it this way, I don't want it this way. And then a team of volunteers come in and they just kind of deck the whole thing out. I've probably 3 times thought about volunteering, but girl, I don't have that kind of free time in my life. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. That was the national tree in the blue room, the one on the left-hand side. The one on the right-hand side is what's in the blue room now. So exactly. I think that aesthetic shows you a big difference in who those two couples are and their version of what Christmas means. It's going to be very interesting to see. Now that room, the East room, I did not like because it was super dark, and they made it dark so you could see the things hanging from the ceiling, the doves hanging from the ceiling. I don't like dark rooms in the White House. It's just, it wasn't to my taste. It just wasn't to my taste. I like it bright. I like it well lit. It just seems more Christmassy. So Melania's theme is home is where the heart is this year. And I think it was very poignant when she was saying, because they traveled so much on the campaign trail, it really reinforced that with her and her family, that wherever they are is where home is. And I think Jill Biden's for this particular circus themed Christmas was peace and light or something along those lines, where she talked about inclusivity and opening doors and that kind of thing. So I think she probably just leaned in a little bit too much.
Her Christmas, Jill Biden's Christmas, it was too playful, too colorful, but I think Melania's decorations are much more, I would say, elegant. However, personally, I like a little bit more the reds and the blues, like a multicolored tree. I think it looks way better. The Jill Biden Christmas decorations, they actually reminded me, and that Nutcracker performance, it actually reminded me of a living version of the clothes that she wears, Jill Biden, because I always said she looked like a clown in her clothes. That looked like a carnival, like you said, a carnival. It was a living version of her clothing. That's what I think it was. So I think that's where she got the ideas from. But thankfully, we have some a little bit more class back in the White House. At least Christmas and Hanukkah will be celebrated and given the proper due that they deserve, and not just made to be a performance again. Not in that aspect. So I appreciate that a lot. I want to shout out our super chatters again. We have Bernie. Thank you for your $5 super chat. He says, Jake Tapper reminds me of an old Beatles song, Day Tripper. By the way, lovely ladies are the real view. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you.
Josh is back. Thank you, Josh, for your $20 super chat. He says, happy weekend, Poppin' Politics fam. Welcome back, Yana. Hope you're all blessed with another holiday season and year ahead full of good health, happiness, and love of family, friends, and this incredible community. Absolutely. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much.
And then we have 3 equals 1. Thank you for being a member of our Freedom Seekers Club and for your $5 super chat. Says, I forgot how weird this was. Yes, it really was.
It was bizarre because, I think sometimes, because being at the White House is so commonplace, once you're elected and you live there, you kind of lose track of the fact that most Americans never get to see the inside of the White House. Never, ever. The closest they get to the White House is seeing it on the news. So when you get there, you expect kind of elegant, traditional, kind of things. That almost everything in the White House is made in America by a state. Usually the national tree has bulbs or something on it from every single state. Everybody has some kind of donation situation going on. I will say I did like Jill Biden had last year ornaments that little children had made their own little self-portraits on. Now it was cute, but the way that they had it, for me, it was just too much color. They were just doing way too much. Melania has blue butterflies for her Be Best program for the fostering of children and that kind of thing. I'm very excited to see it tomorrow, and I will bring you guys back some footage. I'll take you with me. With me to the White House. So.
By the way, I just wanted to comment on that. When Nicole, you said that when you go to the White House, you expect tradition, you expect elegance. Well, I remember during Biden's administration, they literally had topless trans people on the lawn.
Yes.
So, like, what do you expect from that administration? They completely, that is so preposterous that I don't even have words. So
it was a weird administration. Like looking back at it now that, things have kind of come back down to normal. When you take a look at some of the holiday celebrations and, the military, quote unquote, men who were dudes in a dress, it just seems like we were in Alice in Wonderland. Do you know what I mean? Like we had
a carnival, a performance, a theater. Yep. So, well, ladies, that brings us to the end for tonight. I do want to say first, I want to shout out all our super chats, our mods in the chat online, keeping everything in line for us. Thank you to our producers, of course, Logic, Reason, and Gimpy. Yana, you were missed. A lot of people have been asking about you. KJ will be back on, I think Monday. KJ should be back on Monday. And any closing thoughts before we go out?
Absolutely. 20 shopping days. Well, really, probably only 19 shopping days till Christmas. 19. Order your shirts now, folks. I'm telling you, order your stuff now. Things are getting so crazy now. Getting out, having a bunch of fun shopping is a wonderful thing. But for me, I'd rather do it online and have people bring it to my house where all I have to do is put a bow on it and slide it under the tree. Take full advantage of this moment because, again, next year, A250 starts January 1, and there are going to be so many events. And the closer we get to the 4th of July, you're going to want to have something cute on that not everybody else has. And this is your moment. Get your shirts now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't forget, when you buy your merchandise, take a picture of yourself wearing it, send it to us, and we will shout you out. Yana, were you going to say something?
No, I'm happy to see everybody. I'm happy to see the audience, and thank you so much for watching. Please, keep connecting, keep sharing our podcast, and just enjoy the season. It's a wonderful season.
That's right. And before we go, you can connect and enjoy our other podcasts on the other platforms on the MCM channels. You can watch All American Talk Show on Tuesdays. Of course, Poppin' Politics. We are here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And Saturdays, you can find I call them our sister station, but our brother station. Guys, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, they will be on YouTube, Just the Guys podcast. And of course, on Sundays and Thursdays, you have Christian Conservative with KJ and Michelle, and they will be holding it down for you as well. Other than that, ladies, I wish you a great weekend. Get some rest. Nicole, have fun tomorrow. Yana, it was so great to see you. I hope your voice is getting better.
Thank you.
Again, thank you to all of you out there, and have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.